The dream of tying the Atlantic and Pacific coasts together with a transcontinental railroad was as old as the railroads themselves. But when gold was discovered in California in 1848, the whole country got gold fever, and it became an obsession. But it wasn't until the Civil War broke out that the dream became a reality. The Union wanted railroads to bring in Western gold, and with the passage of the Homestead Act in 1862, it became a national goal to use railroads to fill in the country from the Mississippi River west to the Pacific Ocean. But who could build such a railroad? It was a long way, over 1,700 miles through rugged country controlled by hostile Indians. Who could build an engineering marvel comparable to building the pyramids? The upstart Union Pacific and the established Central Pacific were chosen, but they were going to need some help. And the federal government took an unprecedented step of not only bonding a good part of the project, but also giving the railroads the land to build the track. This foresight is a little-known part of Abraham Lincoln's genius.
The Republican Party during the Civil War, Lincoln's party, was a modernizing, industrially oriented, financially oriented party that saw the future of America not so much in traditional old-fashioned agriculture, but in modern agriculture, modern industry, and modern cities that are going to be railroad-based. That meant opening up the farmlands of what is today Minnesota, the Dakotas, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Montana, opening up those farmlands. That can only be done with railroads.
Construction began in earnest after the Civil War, with the Central Pacific and Union Pacific railroads in the race of the century, to see who could build the most track. The Central Pacific went east out of Sacramento and almost immediately ran into the dangerous task of blasting a trail through the steep Sierra Nevada mountains. The work was so dangerous that whites weren't interested, so the Central Pacific had to find a different source of labor.
Now on the west end, the Central Pacific from Sacramento, they started out with Caucasians, but didn't work out too well, so they found that they could bring Chinese in. They used Orientals to build that railroad.
Going west from Omaha, the Union Pacific ran into blistering, cold prairie winters and Indian raids.
The Indians weren't very happy. They didn't like people invading their territory. It was taking away some of their hunting grounds. The Indians caused a lot of trouble. The Indian problem occurred all along, especially in Nebraska, and until they reached about central Wyoming, it let up.
The accomplishment of the Central Pacific and the Union Pacific was a heroic achievement, with the Union Pacific winning the race, putting down 1,087 miles of track to the Central Pacific's 690. On May 10, 1869, the two railroads met at Promontory Summit, north of Ogden, Utah. The celebration rocked the nation. A journey that had taken 6 months by wagon train now took 1 week. It was the equivalent of the 20th century sending a man to the moon. And it kicked off a second boom in railroad building and the age of the railroad tycoons. Americans would coin a new word for these railroad tycoons. They would call them the robber barons.
Hi, I'm Bill Ambrose. If you like this video, subscribe so we can bring you more programming from our studio. Thank you for subscribing.